Hi, I've got a hat now. Unscripted video, let's go! So for the past couple of weeks, I've been watching the Percy Jackson show on Disney Plus, and I've had a lot of thoughts about it. Interestingly enough, not a lot of particularly strong thoughts, but just thoughts in general. It's not only the show that I've been thinking about, it's also just been all the discourse TM around it. So I'll start with my background, I guess. I read the Percy Jackson books when I was a youngin'. I was about I think 12 or something when I read them all, so about Percy's age in the first book. I read a bunch of other Riordan stuff. I read the Kane Chronicles. I read the first two Magnus Chase books, and I read the first three Heroes of Olympus series, but I just don't remember anything that happens there, and I think I just got bored. I don't know. I was a kid with a short attention span. You could throw a 400-page book in my face. I'm not gonna read that shit. Yeah, I've been a Percy Jackson fan since I was very young. I also watched the movies a lot as a kid. I kind of grew to hate the movies pretty intensely because they are not good movies, first of all. But also I realized more and more as I got older that they just completely missed the point of the books. So when I heard that they were making this show, and that Rick Riordan, the writer of the original books, was going to be headlining it, I was excited. I thought that would be cool, and there was a lot of excitement going around. But as the months before this show came out started to lead up, I started to get this uneasy feeling. Not about the show. I thought the show was going to be fine, but I started to get worried about the fan base a little bit. And I think the first time that really started bothering me was when they announced the casting for Annabeth. Annabeth in the show is played by this girl named Leah, I can't remember her last name, who is black. And in the book, Annabeth is a blonde white girl. And with those two facts, you can probably guess how people reacted to this news. But I think what surprised me was just how intense it got. This is the kind of behavior that I would expect to see from the Star Wars fandom or the Marvel fandom in recent years. It was a little concerning seeing this happening with Percy Jackson, the young adult novel series. Then the show started coming out, and I noticed an immediate problem with the show, which was that it was not perfect. Normally, that's not a problem with most shows, because most shows aren't perfect. But with how the fan base had been behaving in months prior, I realized, oh, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna get real ugly real quickly. And I was proven very right. So before I go into accusing the Percy Jackson fan base of being not normal, I'm going to headline my own review of the show. I don't think the show is flawless. I think there are some certain underlying issues here. Something that I noticed in the first couple episodes is that the pacing is really weird. And I think that this is a criticism that has been brought up before by a lot of people, but it does feel like there's a real focus on trying to make it so that all the episodes fit within the 30-minute about runtime. It's not even 30 minutes because Disney Plus has 15 minutes of credits on all their shows. But yeah, the episodes felt short, and it felt like they didn't really know how to compensate for that. There's a lot of quick action scenes and some expository dialogue. It's not show ruining by any means, but it is something that is noticeable. And as time went on, I started noticing some issues with it felt like there were kind of trying to, how do I put this? Iron out any of the kids' imperfections a little bit in the name of addressing plot holes. My friend Pillar of Garbage has an excellent video about this. This is the thumbnail here, and it's also should be linked in a card or something. But essentially the gist of it is that it feels like the plot holes, quote unquote, kind of take away from the charm of the kids being tired, kids, who don't know everything, even though they think they do. Again, it's not something that's show ruining. I think that a lot of the really, really strong elements from the book did carry over. I feel like the worst example of this was probably the worst episode of the show, which was the Lotus Casino episode. I think episode 6. And I'm not just saying that because it has Lin-Manuel Miranda in it, but spoilers, I guess I should have put a spoiler warning. In that episode, they go into the Lotus Casino, which is the lair of the Lotus Eaters from Greek mythology, and they immediately clock into the fact that it is the lair of the Lotus Eaters. But in the book, the fact that they don't know that it's the lair of the Lotus Eaters hinges on the trap working, is how the trap works. And it feels like they kind of try to have their cake and eat it too by have them be trapped in the Lotus Casino, but then also also know they're trapped, which is not how the trap of the Lotus Casino really works in the book. I'm still not really sure why they made that change, but it's a lot of like surface level stuff like that is my point. The criticisms of the show don't come from it being fundamentally broken as a narrative, because they're very much following the very strong narrative of the book. They've got a great base and they're utilizing that base. And I think that I really came around on this show in episode 8, the final episode, because a lot of the changes they made kind of came together in a one spot that made it feel a lot better. And there's just saved by some excellent performances by the late Lance Riddick and by the actor who plays Luke. I can't remember his name either. And that's another thing. I think that the child acting performances in this show are great. You know, they're not like season 1 Stranger Things level, but that's like a once in a lifetime type thing. So as far as child acting goes, these 3 did great, and I look forward to seeing them get better over the course of the seasons. But like I said, surface level criticisms. So my concern with the Percy Jackson fandom is that people have been getting very nasty about it online. Like, very nasty. It's gotten bad. It's gotten bad, dude. We're out in the trenches out here. And like, I'm an adult, you know? I mean, just barely, but I'm an adult man, and I'm having trouble to keeping up with this. Can you imagine like the preteens that this show is targeting, how they're handling this? And I think the most personally offensive to me is that people are now taking this as an opportunity to say that the movies are better than the show. No, they're not. I won't deny that at the first movie has a certain charm to it. It has a certain kind of like, oh, this is a kind of a train wreck, but I love it kind of charm. But that doesn't make it a good movie. Like, even as someone who doesn't like the Lotus Casino episode in the show, I don't like the Lotus Casino sequence in the movie either. Like, I see people saying that it's better because of the fact that they used Poker Face and that the Poker Face version is better. It's no. The reason you like the Poker Face sequence in Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief, 2011 is not because it's some excellent scene. It's because Poker Face is a good song. You just like Poker Face, which I get too. I love Lady Gaga. She did not make the movie good. Anyway, that's personal tangent aside. I'm worried that people are criticizing the show as based off of their nostalgic memories of the book and how amazing it was, rather than as an actual adaptation of the book is a product intended for younger people, which is not the whole well, it's made for kids, so it doesn't have to be conformed to the same standards kind of argument. Just that it's a recurring problem in media criticism today as more and more people get into it with less and less media literacy, where they tend to get into this mindset of, if this thing isn't made for me specifically, then it's bad. And I think the fact that this series is not the 100% faithful adaptation of the books that we were going for, and rather a more of a reboot almost of the books, is a source of contention. And I worry that people are getting so into the weeds of whether or not this is accurate to the book, or whether or not this is blah blah blah, that they're forgetting to actually like think about like what is good about the show. What does the show do badly? What are its strengths, rather than just how well it can do the book good. I feel like I'm losing the plot here. Okay, I'm gonna try and turn this into some kind of conclusion. I think that the Percy Jackson and the Olympians show, season 1, is a good season 1 of a show that's rough around the edges. It's got issues, but I can definitely see them working on those issues, which I think they already said that they are going to be like working on. They're going to be taking feedback from people and trying to improve the show as they go, and turning the good first season into a great however many seasons show they end up doing, if they somehow get to 5 seasons in this current climate. I don't know how they're going to do that. And point 2, I worry that the Percy Jackson fandom is very quickly turning into the next toxic fandom on the internet. I feel like there's going to be a bit of a Star Wars sequel effect, where now that there's a new thing that is, you know, different than the stuff that people grew up with, then people are going to start getting into wars about which thing is better or worse, and people are going to tend to focus on the things that they grew up with over what's necessarily good. I don't think that it's a controversial statement to say that people who are really into the movies probably grew up with the movies and thus have nostalgia for them, which, as someone who also grew up with those movies, okay, it's like the same type of thing as people saying that the Phantom Menace is better than like the Last Jedi or whatever because they grew up with it. It's not. Just throwing that out there. It's not. I worry that as a fandom that is explicitly targeted towards teens and preteens, then we're going to see more toxicity and more almost fandom trauma, I guess, towards people who are younger, and that's concerning. So I guess if you like the show, awesome. I like the show too. If you don't like the show, good for you. I'm sure you have your reasons, and I'm sure they are valid reasons to dislike it. But be kind to each other and don't like get upset at kids for liking things that you don't like or disliking things that you like. And also just read the books, like, maybe again, if you're gonna make value judgments about how good of an adaptation something is, you probably should go back and reread it and not rely on your 15-year-old memories of said book. Can you tell this video is unscripted? Yeah, I might do more stuff like this, like more off the top, like media analysis type things. I did not expect to talk about this for this long, but if you want to see more like ramblings, you can subscribe to this channel and I'll probably do a couple more while I'm working on my show and not making video essays on my main channel, which, by the way, I have a main channel. I'm not making stuff on there right now, but I will be in a couple months. So subscribe for that if you're interested. Hope you all have a great day, and I hope that this video maybe made your day just a little bit better. And I should come up with a new outro for this channel. Don't be bad. Don't be bad. That's the outro. Okay, don't be bad. Don't be bad. Have a good day. Bye.